There was a night Neville Goddard walked into Abdullah's study shaking with joy. Something he had imagined into being had come to pass. Exactly, down to the smallest detail. And he began to tell Abdullah about the man who had helped him, the door that had opened, the letter that had arrived at exactly the right hour. And Abdullah stopped him mid-sentence. He said, "Neville, do not finish that sentence." Neville looked at him as though he had been struck, because what he was about to do was the one thing Abdullah had made him promise years earlier that he would never teach publicly. Neville kept that promise for most of his life. He broke it exactly once, near the end, in a small room, to a handful of students. And tonight, you are going to hear what he said there, and why Abdullah begged him, for years, to keep it hidden. Here is why this matters to you, right now, tonight. In the next few days, something good is going to reach you. It may be smaller than you asked for. It may arrive later than you wanted, but it is coming. And in the instant it arrives, you are going to feel a very specific pull, the pull to look around the room for who to thank, what to credit, what made it happen. Tonight, you are going to learn to resist that pull. And when you do, something in your life goes permanently, finally still. Let's start with what's actually been happening to you, because Abdullah would not begin with theory. He would begin with you, sitting exactly where you are, and he would name what you feel before you found the words for it yourself. You have had good come to you before, real, answered desire, something you imagined that then became flesh in the world, and still you are afraid. You have never quite been able to say why, because on paper, everything worked. The technique worked. The law behaved exactly as Neville said it would. So here is the fear, named plainly, the way Abdullah would have named it. You are afraid, because somewhere in you, you believe the good came from outside you. From a person, from timing, from a stretch of luck you can't repeat on command, from a technique you might get wrong next time. And if it came from out there, it can be taken from out there. That is the sentence you have never said out loud, even to yourself. Not, "I might fail," something quieter and more disturbing than that. "I don't actually know how the good happened last time, so I can't guarantee it happens again." You have spent months, maybe years, trying to reverse engineer your own miracle, studying the sequence of events, wondering if it was the timing or the wording or the person who happened to be standing in the doorway when the thing arrived. And that search, that hunting for the external cause, is the very thing keeping you tethered to something outside yourself. None of this makes you foolish. It makes you honest. You have been faithful in the ways you were taught to be faithful. You have imagined the scene. You have felt it as real. You have waited, sometimes for a long time, without proof. That is real discipline, and Abdullah would have honored it before he ever corrected it. But here is the correction. Gently, every time the good has come, you have handed the credit somewhere else. To the friend, to the app, to the moment, to the coincidence. You have been the source of your own good, and you have been calling yourself only its lucky beneficiary. To understand why this matters so much, you need the story Abdullah told most often about Neville, because it is the seed of everything you're about to learn tonight, and it happened exactly the way it's always been told. Neville was a young man, broke, living in New York in the dead of winter, and every part of him ached to be home in Barbados. The warmth, the sea, his family. And he had no money for the fare, no ship arranged, no plan. So he went to Abdullah and laid it all out, the way you might lay a problem out for a mentor. Here is the obstacle, here is the fare, Here is the impossibility, and Abdullah did not discuss any of it. He looked at Neville and said, "Neville, you are in Barbados." And when Neville tried again to talk about the ticket, the money, the timing, Abdullah simply would not go there with him. He refused every single conversation about the means, not out of coldness, out of precision. He knew that the instant Neville started reasoning about the ship would become the cause in Neville's mind, and Neville is not saved by ships. Neville is the cause, so Neville did the only thing left to do. Each night, he lay down and assumed he was already there. He felt the warm air on his skin. He felt the familiar bed beneath him. He lived, inwardly, entirely in Barbados, while his body remained in a cold room in New York. And the way opened, it always does. A path appeared that let him sail home, and when it happened, the temptation rose exactly the way it rises in you, to say, "The letter came, the berth opened, the money arrived, and that is what got me home." Do you see what Abdullah forbade? He would not let Neville look at the means, because the moment you name the means, you crown the means as the cause, and you were never the means. You are the cause. Neville did not get to Barbados because a ship existed. The ship existed because Neville, first in consciousness, was already standing on that island. This single refusal, Abdullah's refusal to let Neville discuss the how, is the whole teaching in miniature. And Neville wrote the underlying law himself, borrowing Blake's words, and repeated it for the rest of his life. All that you behold, though it appears without, it is within, in your imagination, of which this world of mortality is but a shadow. Everything you have ever received, every door, every person, every dollar, was a shadow. The substance was always inside you first. Now here is the seismic line, the one Abdullah made Neville promise never to teach carelessly, because in the wrong hands it sounds like arrogance, and in the right hands it is the deepest reverence a person can hold. There is no giver outside of you. There never was. Sit with that, because it will try to slide past you the way true things often do. Every good thing you have ever received arrived as the outpicturing of a state you occupied, sometimes deliberately, sometimes by accident. The friend who helped you, the stranger who opened the door, the letter that came exactly on time, every one of them was a character moving inside a dream that your own awareness was authoring. To bow to them as the cause is to fall back asleep to what you actually are. This is also why your results have felt so inconsistent. When you credit an external giver, you unknowingly reinstall an external ruler over your own life. And the next time you want something, guess what you go looking for? Another external giver, another sign, another lucky break. Another technique that might work this time. Instead of returning to the only place cause has ever actually lived, the awareness of your own being, I am. Not a phrase to recite in the mirror, the bare, undeniable fact of your own existence, which Neville called the one and only creative power in the universe. The instant you say, out loud or in the quiet of your own mind, it came from there, you have quietly said, I am not the power. And in that sentence, you have made yourself a subject again in a kingdom that was always yours to rule. This is the thing Abdullah made Neville promise never to teach without care. Not because it is false, but because told carelessly, it sounds like ingratitude toward people. It is the exact opposite. It is the deepest reverence there is, to finally give credit to the one who actually did it. The I am within you, the only God you will ever personally meet. Now, before going further, there is something practical that needs to be said plainly, because what you've just heard is only half of a full practice, and half a practice is exactly why your results have felt unpredictable up to now. Living in the end at night, assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled as you fall asleep, is one movement inside a fuller nightly rhythm. There is also the clearing of the day through revision, correcting the inner conversations you unconsciously fall asleep inside, and building one precise scene before you let go into sleep. Most people, understandably, only ever do one of those movements, and that is the entire reason it has felt like hit or miss. It was never you failing. It was an incomplete routine. So a short, free guide has been written for exactly this moment. It's called Rewrite Tonight, a 3-minute pre-sleep revision protocol. It walks you through choosing the 3 moments from your day that are quietly disturbing your sleep without your notice, revising each one so the mind carries a clean record into the night, and feeling that clearing settle in before you drift off. It is the first link in the description below. Open it tonight. Or if that's easier right now, comment the single word reset and you'll be pointed straight to it. There is also a complete version for anyone who wants to go further. A 7-night, 4-part guided experience called the Transfer Protocol, $27, through that same link. No pressure at all. Start with the free guide tonight. That alone will change how you sleep. And while this is being said plainly, most of the people listening to this teaching right now are not subscribed to this channel. If tonight has done anything for you, subscribing is the one quiet thing that lets teachings like this keep being made and keep getting deeper. That's the whole reason for the ask. Nothing more attached to it. Now, back to what actually changes your life. There is a truth waiting here, and it will feel uncomfortable the first time you hear it stated plainly, because it sounds, at first, like it's asking you to be less grateful. It is asking the opposite. Gratitude toward a person is the sweetest form of self-betrayal you will ever commit. The most spiritual-looking thing you do, turning to thank the giver, is quietly the most disempowering habit in your entire spiritual life. Here is the law underneath it. Wherever you place the cause, you place your dependence. Credit a person for your good, and without meaning to, you now need that kind of person to appear again. Credit a market, and you need the market to cooperate again. Credit luck, and you have made your whole future subject to chance. Neville told a story in The Law and the Promise about a man who was earning a small commission income far below what he wanted and who decided to change it, not by working harder, not by finding a better boss, not by waiting on the economy. He simply began, quietly and privately, to assume he was already making the larger figure. He told himself the story of it. He felt it as done. He did not send a single thank you note to circumstance. And when the money came, not eventually more than he asked, but exactly, and then beyond, there was only one place the cause could honestly be traced: his own assumed state. So here is something to do, starting the very next time good arrives, however small. Receive the person warmly, smile, thank them, be human and kind, but silently, underneath that kindness, say to yourself, "This is I am, appearing to me as this person, this letter, this door." Let the human receive your warmth. Let the credit go home to where it was actually born. Feeling is the secret, Neville said, and the feeling of being the source, quietly held, is worth more than any thank you note ever written to an outside cause. There is a second truth sitting just behind that one, and it will feel like it's contradicting everything you were taught about learning from your wins. You do not need to know how the good came. Studying the how is precisely how you lose it. Think about the pull you feel after something good happens, the urge to reconstruct exactly what you did right so you can repeat the formula. It feels responsible. It feels wise. But notice what it actually does. It re-enthrones the means as the cause. This is the exact delusion Neville warned about his entire career. In his own words, man's chief delusion is his conviction that there are causes other than his own state of consciousness. Every hour spent auditing the mechanics of your last manifestation is an hour spent worshiping the ship instead of the man who was already standing on the island. This is precisely why Abdullah forbade Neville from discussing the how of Barbados. Not once. He would not let the conversation happen. Because there was nothing to learn from the ship. There was only one thing to remember: the state Neville occupied nightly in his own imagination. And that state is endlessly repeatable, in any circumstance, for any desire, because it never depended on a ship in the first place. So stop auditing your wins. Stop asking what you did right, as though it were a formula made of external ingredients. You did exactly one thing right, and it is the only thing you will ever need to repeat. You occupied a state. That's the whole secret, not the sequence of events that followed it. There is a third truth, and this one goes straight to the fear that has probably been sitting quietly underneath this entire video. The fear that your good will be taken from you is proof that you never actually believed it was yours to begin with. Think about the anxiety that shows up right after something good happens. That bracing feeling, waiting for the other shoe, wondering if it was a mistake, half expecting it to be revoked. That isn't gratitude, curdling into nervousness. It is evidence that some part of you is still standing outside your own power, watching your good the way you'd watch something borrowed. And here is the law. What genuinely comes from within cannot be taken by anything without. Only borrowed things can be repossessed. So the next time you feel that bracing, that quiet dread underneath the joy, name it precisely, the way Abdullah would have taught you to name it. This came from I am. I am does not leave the room. Say it plainly, without drama. It is simply true. And Neville's own line belongs here, at full weight, because it is the axis this entire teaching turns on. Man's chief delusion is his conviction that there are causes other than his own state of consciousness. There is no other cause. There never was. Which means there is nothing outside you strong enough to take back what was never given by anything outside you. Now, here is one thing to actually do tonight. Not tomorrow, not eventually. Tonight, in bed, let yourself drift toward that drowsy, heavy, almost asleep state Neville called SATS. The state akin to sleep, where the body has gone still and the mind has gone quiet enough to receive an impression easily. In that stillness, recall one good thing that has come to you recently. It doesn't need to be large. Notice, honestly, your instinct to picture who delivered it or what circumstance made it possible. Then do the one movement this entire teaching has been building toward. Gently withdraw the credit from that person or event and let it settle, without strain, into a single feeling. I did this. I am did this. Not arrogance. Recognition. Feel the relief underneath it, the quiet safety of knowing the good is protected because it lives exactly where it was born, inside you. Let that feeling carry you into sleep. That's the seed of it. The fuller nightly version, the clearing, the corrected inner speech, the precise scene, and the sleep held inside that state together is the whole of Rewrite Tonight, free through the first link below. But even this one movement, done honestly tonight, will change the way you wake tomorrow. Now there's something that needs to be said about the fear itself, because up to this point, it may have felt like an enemy, and it was never that. That bracing feeling, the one that shows up right when good arrives, the one that makes you flinch instead of rest, is not weakness. It is the old self, the one who spent a whole lifetime believing in outside givers, feeling itself become unnecessary. It is loud because it is dying. You do not actually fear losing the good. You fear something much stranger and much better, that you no longer need anyone to hand it to you. And that is the most freedom a human being can hold in one body, so of course it frightens you first, before it frees you. The fear was never weakness, it was proximity. You are closer, right now, than you have ever been to fully knowing you are the source. Neville said it directly, and it belongs here at full weight. Fear is faith in reverse. The same intensity that once convinced you something bad was about to happen is the exact intensity available to convince you something good already has. It's not a different energy, it's the same energy, finally facing the right direction. So let it be uncomfortable tonight. Let the old self make its noise on the way out. It is not a sign you're doing this wrong. It is the surest sign available that you are doing it exactly right. If you are still waiting on something right now, a delay that has gone on longer than you expected, a silence you've been sitting inside, hear this plainly. The waiting is not absence. It is only the interval between the state you have already assumed and the shadow of it catching up in the world outside you. Nothing about your good is missing. Nothing about it is lost. The ship, so to speak, is already sailing toward Barbados. You simply haven't seen the harbor yet, but it is coming into view. So here is what was promised at the very start of tonight. In the next few days, something good is going to reach you. It may be smaller than you hoped for. It may arrive later than you wanted. And in that exact instant, you will feel the old pull, the pull to look around the room for who to thank, what to credit, what caused it. This time, notice it, and this time, do not look outward. Let a stillness rise in its place instead, and let it carry Abdullah's own words back to you. There is no giver outside of you. There never was, and you will smile, quietly, because you'll realize your good was never actually in danger of being taken. It couldn't be. It was never out there to begin with. Remember that you were told this tonight. If you are done tonight, done borrowing your power, done handing the credit outward, done fearing something your own I am created, and can just as easily create again, comment the one word reset, not as a comment, as a declaration. I am the source, and I am taking my throne back tonight. It will point you straight to the free guide, first link below. And if this teaching has done anything real for you, remember that most people watching right now haven't subscribed yet. Do that too, simply so this channel can keep going deeper, the way it went tonight. There is a deeper layer sitting just past everything you learned tonight, and it's the very thing that makes this teaching dangerous to hand someone too early. Once you truly know you are the sole cause, a strange question rises on its own. If there is no outside giver, then what exactly is the person standing in front of you? Neville had a precise answer for that, and almost every teacher who touches this subject gets it exactly backwards. Next time, that answer will be laid out in full, and why loving people correctly, in light of what you now know, is the last door standing between you and total dominion over your own life.